Well, howdy, folks. Welcome back to another action-packed episode of Dirt Road Derelicts here. We're back down in the shop wrenching on, funny enough, my newest vehicle, my 1994 Ford 7.3 Powerstroke. Now, we're doing quite a bit today, a little bit of preventative maintenance and, some pretty nice upgrades that I've been putting off doing, so reckon we'll just dive right in here. I'll show you guys what all we got. I got it all kind of laid out on the table. Got some boring stuff here. I picked up some new fuel pump hoses and everything. I figure while I'm doing what I'm doing, I'll have a lot of access into the engine, and we'll go ahead and replace some of the fuel pump hoses. And I picked up O-rings and whatnot for the fuel pump. Some new hose clamps for the fuel pump as well. Turbo pedestal O-rings. Those will come in handy later because EBPV delete. EBPV stands for exhaust back pressure valve. And what this setup here is going to do is delete it. So we have the pedestal that has the little solenoids deleted on it, and then we have the outlet housing that is just nice, big, clear, open outlet housing here. Some folks insist that you lose some horsepower if you leave the little flapper in there. I don't think you lose that much. The EBPV delete kit came with O-rings. We don't trust those. I only trust good ones that I got from Riff Raff because pedestal leaks are the biggest pain in the butt on these Powerstrokes, or so I'm told. I've only used Riff Raff O-rings in the past. The one time I've had that turbo off and it doesn't leak, so I'm gonna stick with what I know. It's only a couple bucks to get good O-rings, and for me it's worth every second of it. And we got some Bellowed up pipes. Now I'll be able to show you guys and explain this in a lot better detail once I get everything out of my truck, and I can lay everything out here on the table for you guys and show you why these are an upgrade over the old pipes. But they are an upgrade, and they seal better, and better sealing pipes means you get more boost out of your turbo. Of course, what taking all this out and doing all this work to the Powerstroke means is I can also check up on my turbo. If you guys recall, back in December, so yeah, about 6 months ago now, I did rebuild my turbo on the channel here, and today we'll be able to have a look at that and see how well it's holding up, see if I'm a certified YouTube turbo rebuilder or not, since that is the first turbo I've ever rebuilt. Let's go ahead. We'll have a look under the hood of the old Wonton here. Pretty standard looking 7.3 Powerstroke. Of course, I still haven't gotten rid of that stock airbox. I've been dragging my feet on that, but we'll get there someday, you know. Step by step is what we've been doing around here. So, of course, turbo's back there. That guy's got to get off of there. There we go. Got to get the turbo off of there. I'm going to do the turbo pull off camera because all the information that I know of and everything that I know about pulling these turbos is in the turbo rebuild video. So if you guys are looking for that, go back to that video. That's where you're going to find all that information. So I'm going to go about that just like I did in that video, and I'm going to get the turbo out of there. I'm not 100% sure on what I'm going to do with the fuel lines or when I'm going to go to that. I feel like it'd be smart to do that before I pull the turbo because I feel like there'd be more room, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm going to do what I know, which is pull the turbo here, and once that's off, then I'll deal with the fuel system and what I was going to do there. Got a mosquito on my arm. Sorry about that. Like I said, I'm going to pull the turbo and get that out of the way, and then I'll deal with the fuel system. I'm not upgrading the fuel system. I'm not changing anything on the fuel system other than just replacing parts. Old rubber hoses wear out. We all know it. So while I'm in there doing everything, I can go ahead and check up on all the wiring. These old engines, they like to, the wires like to get brittle and crack the sheathing on them. And when they do that, then of course, what you end up having is wires that short out and cause issues. So I'll go ahead and, of course, while I'm doing all that, inspect all those wires. You don't want any frayed or, shorting out wires. That'll cause you some headaches later on. So I'm going to dive in. First things first, of course, got to disconnect the batteries. Don't want to give myself a zap. And yeah, we'll get that turbo out of there, and then I can show you guys all the fancy stuff. Alrighty. Here's your guys's, believe it or not, that took me 1 hour. Let's just say I learned a lot when I took my turbo out to rebuild it, I mean, that went smooth as butter. As you can see, I got that thing popped out of there in no time. Of course, one of the great things about this, going back in here the second time, I know I put anti-seize on all the exhaust bolts that I took out last time, which means they all came out just like I planned. So yeah, now we're left with the up pipes. I haven't done a lot of digging, but where I'm going to start is I'm going to loosen everything up top here on the collectors while it's still bolted to the manifolds underneath. That way I know that or if I loosen the manifolds first, then the top part here will be all floppy while I'm trying to do the bottom. And so I think it'll work out pretty good. So yeah, loosen up all 4 bolts. There's 2 bolts there, 2 bolts over there for each pipe, you know. And yeah, we'll get that guy popped out of there. I don't 100% know how this is all going to come out, but yeah, I'm going to just start loosening things basically. Alrighty, another day back in the shop here. We quit last night wrestling with the up pipes. I could only get 1 bolt off the top side, but I started thinking, and I think if I got the bolts on the manifolds off, that then I could sort of manipulate the top side to where I could get to the other bolts that I need. I believe I can take off the passenger side pipe only and take off the Y pipe with the driver side up pipe. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes here, but for right now I'm going to be wrestling those bolts down on the manifold. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure they're all going to break. Great thing, they go through and they have a nut on the end. So worst case scenario, I can just cut them and knock them out. And it's no sweat. There's no stuck bolts in the manifold or anything bad like that. Alrighty, here we are. This would have gone a lot easier if I could have gotten the bottom bolt out. You can see I pulled it out afterwards. I want to show you guys how these actually seal. But I couldn't get the 1 bolt out with this in the truck. So I had to cut this pipe, which I was willing to do because, of course, we're replacing these. So no real loss there. I actually saved this Y. It's not damaged at all. So that's still a good part, as a matter of fact. And I guess technically I don't need this new shiny one, but I'm going to put the new shiny one in anyways because that's what you do. But yeah, so I cut this pipe, and then this is the passenger side pipe. This guy slid right out once I cut it. And then the driver's side pipe was a little bit more of a challenge, but luckily I sort of did my research and I knew the trick to getting the driver's side pipe out. And of course I got the driver's side pipe out still attached to the Y and everything. So here's what I did. And this took like, you know, not even 5 minutes to get this done. You can see the bottle jack there. I just pulled off the 2 nuts that mount the bottom of the transmission in. Bottle jack right in the middle of the body of the transmission, jacked it up. You can see those studs are just barely sticking out now, so it's up maybe 1.5 inches or 2 inches. And it makes no sense to me, like, just if I'm just thinking about it, but when you like look at it and when you're actually doing it, it makes so much more sense. But lifting that up tilts the engine forward, and that gives you a ton of room to get that pipe, and you can just snake that driver's side pipe right out of there, and there it is, you're all done. So let's get back up there, we'll have a look at those pipes, and I'll show you why the new ones are probably a ton better. Alright, so what we have here, these should be stainless steel Bellowed up pipes. I picked these up from Full Force Diesel, and they seem like a decent quality part. Over here we have the stock pipes that you can see are all dinged up from getting them into the truck. I think that's factory, at least I hope it is. And the way the factory pipes seal is you have this flange slips over the up pipe. Well, it would have. This slips over the up pipe, and then you can see the gasket there. So when you cinch this, I'm not 100% flange. This would be a flange, is what you'd call this. So when you cinch this flange down with bolts, it pushes that gasket in on the pipe, and that's what seals it. Now, believe it or not, this passenger side pipe was pretty sealed, but this driver's side pipe, well, you can see the black on it up around the flange and everything. It's all wet because I was soaking it with a PB blaster. Let me chuck this in the vise real quick. So this driver's side pipe, you can see it's all loose now, and you can see the black around it from soot coming out of it, and that means you're losing power. And what I really don't like is that that's the driver's side bank isn't putting as much, air into the turbo basically, but the passenger side seemed like it was still sealed up. Now the reason why these do this is because this gasket and the pipe expand with heat. Of course, we know metal expands with heat, and when the pipe expands, basically it expands ever so much, just a fraction, I mean, thousandths of an inch that this pipe expands, but it's enough that over time it actually moves enough that it wears out where this gasket goes. Let me see if I can get this gasket out, and we should be able to see the wear on it. Maybe I'll take this side apart and we can have a look. Goodness, what a struggle. So I was trying to get this driver's side pipe off to show you guys where it was in there, but I just managed to get the other side out. So you can kind of see, I pushed the gasket down. The gasket's there now. It used to be up here, and you can kind of see how it's polished up there. Just barely. This one wasn't terrible because the passenger side pipe was still sealed. If I could show you the driver's side pipe, that's the one that's really pooched. But like I said, the expansion and contraction, basically with the gasket rubbing on it, it'll wear it out right in there, and then you'll get leaks. Now this is far from the worst one I've ever seen. I've heard folks say that sometimes you can just loosen the manifolds and the pipes will just fall out because they're so worn out in here. And mine wasn't that bad, but like I had the turbo out already. I was gonna do the EBPV delete, and I figured why not, we'll go ahead and do the up pipes too, and then I won't, or shouldn't, I shouldn't ever have to think about it again. Now that we've had a pretty good look at the original style up pipes, and I will say that it's not an awful design. The problem is that it's so inaccessible in these pickups that it's a pain in the butt. If it were in, I'm pretty sure the international trucks that had the 7.3 Powerstroke or the DT444E, I believe those actually were easier to get at, and so this would be an easier item to service. But like I said, they're almost impossible to get in and out in these OBS Fords, so you might as well go for the upgrade. Now here, you can see bottom, this bolts to the manifold, same exact identical design to the stock ones where it bolts to the manifold, but the difference is up here at the Y pipe. Now, these flanges are welded on up here, and what we have are gaskets. They go on there. You bolt this guy down tight. These aren't moving anywhere. Now, expansion and contraction still exists. That's what the bellows are for. That's why they're called bellowed up pipes. Now, you can kind of see that it wiggles. There's a little bit of play in these bellows. These bellows make up for the expansion and contraction that these up pipes need to do to not crack and break and everything. Because if you didn't account for this at all, then you would have issues with them cracking and breaking and stuff like that. And that's why the international design isn't god awful, but it's a pain in the butt is what it is. So yeah, and these guys will go back in just almost identical to the way the old ones came out. It's just a different design. So what we'll go ahead and do, the trans is still, jacked up like I showed you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and now I did some research on it, and basically what you want to do is get these in position and get them loosely bolted down, and then you got to get the turbo in so that they're bolted to the flange. The turbo flange is bolted to the turbo, and then you want to cinch everything down once all the bits and pieces are, finally in place. So with that, what I'm going to go ahead and do is put the new pedestal on the turbo first, and then we'll have everything kind of staged and ready to go. So with that, we'll have a look at the turbo parts. There it is. Plain as day, clear and simple. You're just paying for simplicity here. Now this here is the EBPV solenoid. What this is it's got, when the engine's running, it has the low pressure oil, so like 40 PSI of oil pressure in it, and then it's got an electronic actuator that allows it to push this little arm in and out. And of course what that does is it opens and closes the flapper here. Now, same thing with the up pipes. It's an alright design. It has a purpose, and there is like some theory and some thought behind it. And what this does is it helps the engine warm up in cold weather. Now, you would think, being in Alaska, that I'd want that, but, well, I don't. The solenoids will leak. Seals will go out, and they'll puke oil out here. Like I said, it's got oil pressure in here, so it'll, make a mess. Your electronic actuator can go out. This flapper can get stuck closed, and then, of course, you're still looking at sort of a restriction in there. And of course, here's the new outlet housing. Plain and simple. Like I said, you're just paying for more simplicity here, which you never really think that you need to pay for simplicity, but apparently you do. Now, fingers crossed this pedestal's machined well and is good and clean. I can feel some rough burrs around the edge, but of course the top surface is really what matters. I've heard another great thing is it's easier to get at these bolts once you have the delete pedestal, because of course you have to get around this guy, and I know that bolt is a royal pain in the butt to get at with this old pedestal. So yeah, we'll get rid of this thing. Nice, new, plain, simple, clear as day. I love it. Very nice. So yeah, we'll get this guy thrown on there. The outlet housing goes on once the turbo is like mounted in the truck, just kind of the way it is with how I do this process. And yeah, like I said, simplicity. Well, these are a little less simple in theory, but you know, just simple, redundant, robust parts. They're perfect. They're exactly what I am after here. So yeah, I'll get the pedestal bolted on. It's the same process as like when I did the turbo rebuild, except it's just a different pedestal. So it's the same torque spec. I'm going to re-Google it here, but I'm pretty sure it's like 18 foot-pounds pedestal to turbo. Obviously my hands are dirty, so I need to go ahead and clean everything before I bolt it all together so everything's nice and neat. Don't want to get any grit in that turbo that I rebuilt a few months ago. And yeah, just kind of the reverse. Alrighty, folks, there's the passenger side pipe. Yay, over here, here's the driver's side pipe. Never mind that oil leak. She's leaking oil, she's got oil, but there she is. Everything's all in there. I got the bottle jack. Whoa. Ugh. Got the bottle jack out of there, so the trans is bolted back down, and yeah, we just need to put the collector up top, and like I said, everything down here is just hand tight, hardly even, because you want to be able to wiggle things, and this is where things might get a little interesting and annoying. So from what I've heard, things might get a little annoying because you might have to, I might have to, sort of expand the bellows on those, essentially pull the pipes in to get everything together. That's why you leave everything loose, because of course the bellows are contracted now, and sometimes you do have to expand them to get that Y pipe, the collector, on there. And that's, like I said, that's why you leave everything kind of loose. So the next step here for me is going to be to put the gaskets on those and then try and get the collector settled in there. I'll let you guys know if I have any trouble with it or if it just bolts together. It sure would be a blessing if it just bolted together, but you know, that is never how she goes. Alrighty, there she is. So the top of the up pipe to the Y pipe there, or the turbo flange, all of that is tight. The up pipes to the manifolds on both sides are still loose, so this guy has some movement in it yet, and we're going to need that movement, of course, when we get the turbo in there. Like I said, the things have to shift still so that we can get it bolted to the turbo nice, square, and flat, and sealed. So I think before I stick the turbo in, while I've got a little bit of room, I'm going to replace these upper and lower fuel lines in here. That's nothing too fancy, just some preventative maintenance I'm trying to do. Like I showed you guys, I got new lines and I got new clamps for those, so we'll go ahead and replace those. This thing did have a very minor fuel leak. It was just, I mean, maybe a dribble every like 5 minutes or something. It was super minor, but you know, that builds up over time, and it's, you know, fuel leak's a fuel leak, and if you can fix it, fix it. And obviously, I've got all the room in the world back here without that turbo in here, so I might as well have a look. I'll see if I can't tighten down the banjo bolt on the back of the fuel pump just a little more. If I can't tighten it anymore, I might replace the washers. I did get new washers for that. I don't really want to do it, but I don't know. We'll see. All I'm going to do is replace those fuel lines, and I got to get to the IPR, which is somewhere down down there. That thing's a pain in the butt to get at. How I've gotten to it before, when I got this truck, the tin nut had fallen off the IPR. It wasn't causing any issues, but the tin nut falling off is an issue and can cause the truck to stall out randomly and give you all kinds of trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and throw in a new IPR while I've got everything out. How I've gotten in there before is I just take, there's this bolt, and then there's another bolt that holds, this is the fuel pressure regulator on the side here. I pull this guy off and just kind of set it, leave all the lines connected, and I just kind of flop it over to the side, and then I'm able to get a wrench down, way down in there. Let me grab a light, and I think I can point out where the IPR is. Okay, I got my light jimmied in there, and here in this foil bag, this was in a foil bag in a box. I bought it from Riff Raff, and they only sell genuine Motorcraft parts. Any sensor you put on an old 7.3, make sure it's a Motorcraft sensor. This is what the IPR looks like out of the bag. And let's keep that. Well, we'll get a clean rag, set on my leg. Try and keep things nice and clean around here. That's what the IPR looks like. Of course, this part is inside the engine. I had to get this from Riff Raff and couldn't get it from my local Ford dealer because for 94 and 95, they have this little edge filter, and the later ones were just open on the end. It makes a difference, so I'm told. Let me get this guy put up. There we go. Set that over there. Now, if you're looking down in here, right where the end of the screwdriver is, that's the IPR. My flashlight's making that way too bright. Let's see if we can. That might be a little better. Okay, there you can just see right at the end. That's the end of the IPR. Right there is the solenoid, and then it bolts into the back of the high-pressure oil pump. The high-pressure oil pump's right there. So that's your IPR. Trust me, it is a royal pain to get to, but I have had that one out, and I cleaned it up in the past. So it's possible. It's just a pain. So, yeah, fun. So I'm going to replace that, and then, like I said, all the rubber fuel lines. Nothing special, nothing fancy, just preventative maintenance on the old girl, so yeah. Alrighty, quick little update for you guys. So I said I was going to pull the fuel bowl. Well, I lied. I changed my mind on that because the fitting for the fuel bowl heater does not want to come off at all. I don't want to break it. And doing the O-rings and all the lines and everything, that was just preventative maintenance. It really wasn't necessary, just something I figured I'd do while I was in here. And like I said, I changed my mind. I don't want to break anything and have this regular maintenance turn into this truck being down for longer than it needs to be, because I kind of need to use it later this week. And I also need to drive it to work on Monday. So yeah, we're going to leave it just the way it is. Thought I'd show you. Like I said, this is the fuel pressure regulator. So I pull this guy off and just set it up off to the side, kick this blue hose down out of the way, and then, yeah. So, on there, you have your tin nut, and then the spacer, and then this is the solenoid. You just pop all those guys off. When you put it back together, you want to make sure this tin nut's on there tight. When this tin nut falls off, and then the spacer falls off, and then the when that happens, the solenoid can slide freely on the IPR, and that will cause issues. And then what you do, and the reason why I do it this way is I can just use a 1 1/8" end wrench and just put it down on there on the, it's got to go this way. Put it down on there on the IPR and just kind of spin it right off of there. So I like doing it this way. I don't need to pick up any new tools or any toys or anything like that. It really is just this simple, and I can use all the tools I already have. So I'm going to get this thing threaded out of here, and then I'll get the new one thrown in. There's nothing special with the new one. Just lube up the O-rings and put it back in just the same way that guy came out. So you put it in without the solenoid and all that on there, and then you put the solenoid and then the spacer and then the tin nut. Just as easy as can be. Alrighty. Well, we're ready to put the turbo back in. I just finished up the IPR. Nothing fancy, just put it back together the way it came apart. So what we got to do now, obviously there's a rag there. That's where the pedestal bolts. So I got to lube up the O-rings, put the O-rings there, slip the old turd ski in its place. One thing I'm not a fan of is the new flange there didn't come with studs for the bottom. The original one had studs, and this one has bolts. So with the studs, I could put the gasket on there and then put the turbo in place. Now I don't exactly know what I'm going to do. So I'm going to struggle with it, and then I'll tell you guys how the struggle went. Alrighty, and just like that, the turbo's back in. Now I just need to finish torquing down the pedestal to its final torque, but everything is in. I was just laying under the truck and I tightened down the up pipes to the manifolds. And like I said, probably the single most important thing about doing this with the bellowed up pipes is keep them loose on the manifolds until you get the turbo bolted in and all the manifold or the collector bolts, all these collector bolts. Once you get all those started and you get the turbo bolted in place and everything sort of positioned, then you can tighten down the bolts and that'll stretch the bellows and everything right where it needs to be. And so yeah, the biggest thing I've seen so far is just little by little, keep everything loose, get it all mocked up and assembled, and then tighten everything down. So yeah, like I said, I just got to torque down the turbo to its final torque, put the outlet housing on the turbo there, and then put the rest of this back together. Just like I said, just the way it was before, and here in a second you guys will hear this thing fire off. I did drain the fuel bowl, and of course we did introduce air into the oil system, so it might crank for a little bit before it starts, but we'll get there when we get there. Alrighty, well here's the moment of truth. We got her all slapped back together, easy peasy. We'll throw some keys in and see what happens. Like I said, I think it's gonna crank for a minute before it finally starts, just because we drained the fuel bowl among other things. My poor radio is going to do a hard reset because I had the batteries unhooked. Not too shabby, actually. Just had to get a little fuel up in there and she's doing good. Air in the oil system and air in the fuel system will make it run a little rough, so we're just gonna let her warm up. I'm gonna get my tools put away. I obviously got that table up there and whatnot, and then we'll take her for a rip and see what happens. You gotta have the window cracked for maximum turbo noise. Oh yeah. Get her off the high idle. Took a second. I made sure everything was, you know, righty-tighty and not lefty-loosey. Made sure that the pedestal wasn't leaking horrendously. I remember when I rebuilt the turbo, the pedestal leaked for a little bit and then it stopped. So I wasn't super concerned. But this time it seems like it's not leaking at all. So that's pretty cool. Listen for the sound of me running things over that I didn't feel like picking up under the pickup. Well, let's see how she does. Alrighty, well, it's a little bit challenging to grab gears and video and whatnot all together, but she's definitely got a little more kick in the pants now, especially up high. Oop, tachometer just came back. Welcome back to the party, buddy. Yeah, there's a little more something there. That's pretty cool. You don't need to worry about doing 70 in a 55. Alrighty, well there she is. We got her all back together. She's running like you wouldn't believe. I'll tell you what, that sure lit a fire under the ass of this old Powerstroke. One heck of an upgrade those downpipes were. And well, I'm pretty proud of the pedestal delete as well. The pedestal delete, of course, was not necessary at all. It's just one of those things, less moving parts, less complicated shenanigans, you know, get all that stuff out of the way. It'll be easier to get the turbo off in the future, you know, and theoretically, yeah, there is the tiniest little minuscule amount of better flow through that outlet housing. But like I said, the big thing are those bellowed up pipes. This thing's got quite a bit more get up and go from a stop now. And I did notice, I drove it around a little bit, you know, really got to feel it out, kind of daily driving it and towing with it a little more so that I can really feel out how much more power it has. But from what I could feel, it seems like it's got a little more kick in the pants right now. So I'm pretty happy with that. One of the things I noticed with this thing when I had been driving it before is that if you were pulling a hill pretty hard, you'd hear kind of a faint ticking noise. And when I was doing a little research on this nonsense, I heard that that faint ticking noise, or sometimes it can get louder than that, is your up pipes are leaking. And well, I'd believe it. I didn't notice any ticking while I was driving it just now. I'm gonna have to drive it for the rest of the week here and really, you know, see if that's actually what it was or if it was just a fluke kind of deal. But anyhow, I'm pretty happy with it. Runs a lot better. The turbo sounds way different now. Like there's a lot more turbo sound now, which I don't even know how there's more turbo sound out of this thing because it already had a ton of turbo sound, but there's more turbo noise now. So that's awesome. We got her back together. She's going again. Up pipes are kind of easy, guys. So don't be scared of them. I kind of was, because you hear stories. The down pipe and the up pipes are the things guys always say, oh, I'd never do that again and I'll never touch another one and blah, blah, blah. And it wasn't that hard. You just gotta do a little research, do a little digging, watch this video. I hope this video is helpful and can give out all the information that I wish I would have known before I started this job. And yeah, I mean, that's it. There she is, all back together. Next time, I don't know. We'll do more things to the old Powerstroke. Slowly but surely, I'm getting it, you know, in better and better shape as time goes on here. And pretty soon we'll have a lean, mean, daily driving machine here. So with all that said, I want to thank everybody for watching the old channel and checking out the old Powerstroke and all the shenanigans we got going on around here. It's always appreciated. So, well, I guess I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching.